Hey traders, and welcome back to IFX Success. And I want to go over the major settings for the order block. And we actually, after some talk with a student, we have been analyzing, and we actually came to the conclusion that we are using the current settings for the order block actually are the aggressive settings. So I'm going to give you two more settings, which is going to be, well, the aggressive, which is the original settings that we currently have, and then we're going to talk about a conservative settings and then ultra conservative settings. And the ultra conservative are mainly for those who like to scalp. So here it is. The one on my right hand side is the actual settings that we have, the original settings, and we're gonna go over the settings right now so we can compare. The one on the left is the one that is conservative, and then we're gonna go over the ultra conservative. So if you're gonna go to your indicators list, I want you to go to IFX signals, and right here you're going to see that period 1 we have 5, 13, and 34. Okay, so this is aggressive settings. And on the order block indicator, all the way at the bottom where it says period 3, because remember the order block is based on the period 3, it says 34 on both of them, on the reversal, on the regular order block. So here it is on regular, this is the aggressive, and then the regular conservative, we are going to say that we're going to have 13, 36, and 60, period 1, 2, and 3. And on the regular order block, we're going to actually change a couple things in here. On the regular order block, we're going to have period 3 at 60. And the reversal order block, we're going to have it as 34. And you can change it as 60, but there's actually a strategy behind this. So I want you to just check it out. And there are a couple of differences that you can see over here. Well, this is the same. We have a breaker. We have a regular reversal breaker over here. The only difference is that now we don't have, you see over here, we have a regular order block that is forming, but we don't have one over here. We do have a reversal because I kept it as the original. And one of the things that I want to go over with this is that if we enter, let's say we entered a retest, probably one of the strategies that we're going to use is that once a regular reversal breaker happens, then we can use it to either get out in the market or to get in again when we get a reversal breaker. But let's just kind of compare first. So right over here we have one at the bottom. Some of them obviously sometimes they do compare. So right over here on the left hand side we actually have just a reversal breaker, but here we have an order block. Okay, so why are we going to be using this? So right over here we have a regular breaker, and over here we didn't have a regular breaker. So what is happening is that we're getting too many signals, and especially if we're getting on M15 based on either 1 hour or 4 hour, we're going crazy and making too many mistakes. So for example, right over here we have a breaker and a reversal breaker, right? But then on this one, on this entry, pretty much would be this reversal breaker. What we will be doing is we will be entering as a breaker retest, right? As a breaker retest instead of just a regular breaker. So that way we're actually going with a better flow cycle in the market. We're not entering and exiting too much, because right over here, if we go back a little bit, this would have been maybe a strategy to exit the market. So if we were buying, let's say we got in, at the breaker, and we were buying, and then we all of a sudden got a reversal breaker, then that would have been an exit. And then what we could do is re-enter over here at the regular reversal breaker. Also, we can use the M15 as well. So just like I said, it's gonna give you less breakers. What we're gonna have is just less breakers. Sometimes, like right over here, they are the same, right? This breaker over here is the same as this one. It's just that some of the cycles are going to be less, right? Sometimes we're just gonna have less breakers, especially on 15 minutes. So let's just quickly compare 15 minutes, which you're going to see that we are going to get a lot more breakers on the aggressive and not on the regular one. So that is just a heads up, kind of to give you that. So right over here, of course, we have one and right up this one, was a breaker retest, which worked very nicely. So they are very similar in many ways. It's just that sometimes we don't have, like, let's say right over here, let's just say, this one is actually very similar. So it's not that bad, right? It's just that sometimes on 1 hour we might get too many on small cycles that which we can pretty much ignore instead of entering on those little entries here and there. So that's pretty much it. Like right over here, we wouldn't have had this breaker. It would just not give it to us. It was a really small cycle. And then over here, I'm not sure why it didn't give it to me on this one, but I'm pretty sure we would have had a bullish breaker. And right over here, we have a bullish breaker. So they're very similar. It's just that sometimes we might not have so many, right? So, I want you to compare it. You will be able to see that definitely we are going to get less alerts and going based more on basically, less like right over here on 4 hours, we would have had a breaker over here, and then we would have had another breaker right over here. So that is pretty much a lot. Like right over here, you can see it. This is a 4-hour bullish breaker, and then another breaker right over here. So instead of really entering on these cycles or analyzing this, is just pretty much what we're doing in here is using this breaker and then entering on a breaker retest to sell over here, and then another breaker retest over here, and then pretty much finally we got the bullish breaker. So right over here, this one and this one, it was just too much. It's too redundant. It's too many breakers, and that is really could affect our trading by a lot. Okay. Now, what the ultra conservative is going to be using, I'm going to change this one, and we're going to change the signals, and the ultra conservative is going to be using 36, 60, and 164. And on the regular order blocks also, we're going to be changing this one to 164. And the reversal order block, we're going to change it to 60. Why? Because that's going to help us to enter on breaker retest, and also it's going to help us either maybe to get out of a trade. So the only thing about this is that on the dashboard, we're going to go over the dashboard. It's just that it's going to, since it's, it really depends on you which one you want to use. You have to use now more bars, because the dashboard is using only like 200 history bars, and then now these breakers are going to be pretty much older breakers. It's going to be a longer term trend, right? That's what I really want you to understand. So here it is. This is the conservative, this is the ultra conservative. These two are very equal, of course. Then we would have had another entry here on 15 minutes. And then right over here, we are getting a reversal breaker, but we are getting also an order block, right? That if it breaks, then, obviously then we could say that maybe the market is going to start going down. But in here, we are just getting a heads up that it could change. But pretty much what we're doing is we are waiting for a breaker, a real breaker, right? So this is pretty much maybe just a exit point. And, maybe on 1 hour we could have had an entry, but pretty much this, is a longer term trend. If I go back in here, I haven't really had a breaker in a long time, really, really long time. This is just, like I said, this is just more of a long-term cycle. It's just, yeah, that's it. The breaker was here. This is the ultra conservative. The breaker was here, and pretty much we just kept getting breaker retest. This is a breaker retest. This would have been an exit. I don't know. I know it's kind of small, but right over here would have been an exit. So this is the breaker right over here. Okay. And then we would have had here maybe an exit point, and then maybe re-enter here where we would have gotten an alert on 4 hours for a reversal breaker, and then pretty much ride the trend again. And then, it's just a longer trend, downtrend. I mean, I'm gonna minimize it, but you'll be able to see that we had just pretty much, this is the entry, the order block entry, and then the market never made a new high compared to this one, so the market kept on going lower. You know, it's just larger cycles. The market kept on going lower and lower. Here it gave us a high, but it obviously was not really high. You know, it just kept on going lower. So pretty much this is the ultra conservative entries over here. Finally, we had an order block over here, but compared to this one, we would have had a breaker right over here. This is 4 hours, right? So compared to this one, you know, definitely we would have had this would have been a breaker right over here, which is this one. You know, we don't have one. And then we would have had a breaker retest right over here, right? Which we know we don't have anything over here. So that is pretty much what, you know, I want you to actually analyze it on your own. You know, I've been doing some testing, and then, you know, we were talking about this, and then definitely we can tell, like right over here, we had a breaker to go to the upside, and then we just pretty much didn't get a breaker over here on the ultra conservative one, right? So, you know, just go over it. Settings, you know, it's very important, because with the ultra conservative, you know, on M15 entries are going to be way less entries, but they are going to be very efficient, right? They're going to be a lot better entries if you like to scalp, right? So let's say if you would have entered here on this breaker or breaker retest, you could have gone out in here on this reversal breaker. So let me make this bigger and kind of talk more about this conservative for a second. This is the ultra conservative one. So you would have had here a breaker, you would have gone in here again, and what you could have done is another breaker retest if you're doing the reversal order block, right? So the reversal order block will be doing a reversal, a breaker retest of this 15 minutes again, right? So because why? Because it didn't make a new high, just stay within that breaker. And the market kept on going lower. Finally, it gave you a breaker to the upside, and then, well, this is pretty much where it's working right now. But if I go back a little bit more, like, you're gonna be able to see, we just don't get as many breakers to the upside. Like, this is one breaker, and, you know, it was just a large cycle to go higher and higher, right? So for those of you who like to scalp, you know, maybe also looking at 5 minutes, this is just one breaker too, and this is the whole cycle going to the downside, right? Which was really nice. This is dollar CAD, and that's it. So if you know, this is another breaker right here, and, you know, it's just really, you know, let me minimize it. It's just really, you know, long. This is a huge trend right over here, right? So we would have had on the conservative or the aggressive, we would have had, you know, another entry here, maybe another one over here. We would get too many, right? So for those of you who actually are conservative and then want to wait a little bit longer, so here it is, you know, this is a breaker. We have here a reversal breaker. You could have gotten out at a reversal breaker and then maybe re-enter again at another reversal breaker going along with that trend, right? So the conservative one, here it is. It would just be the same thing. It's just a little bit more entries, but not like the aggressive one, right? Not like the aggressive, which is just way too many. So right over here, we had a breaker on 1 hour. We had a breaker retest, which you could have used either to enter on 15 minutes. I'm going to highlight it over here. I'm going to go down to 15 minutes. And you would have had a nice breaker on 15 minutes right over here, right to the downside. And then this was an awesome trade. And, you know, if we go down to 15 minutes, again, we're just going to get way less entries, but are more accurate. They're really, really better entries compared to the aggressive modes, which, you know, it's just way too many entries. That's why also I was going kind of crazy. And, you know, one of those things that I'm like, there's got to be a way that we can, you know, make it better and get less entries. So right over here, we had a M15 entry on the conservative one, and then it was just, you know, really nice entry right there. So I'll leave you with this. So the settings, again, you have to go right click on indicators list, IFX signals. So the settings, you know, we're going to go over just right now in detail. So the aggressive settings that you have right now, I believe, are 5, 13 and 34. So this is the aggressive setting. Okay, the conservative settings that I'm gonna be using the conservative, not the ultra conservative, will be 13, 36, and 60. Okay, for the IFX signals. And then for the order block, if you go all the way at the bottom, the period 3, the aggressive will be 34. Okay, then you can use conservative will be 60, and then the ultra conservative will be 164. Okay, and then for the regular order block indicator, that would be really up to you. If you're using the aggressive, or you would just have to leave it 34 as well. But if you're using the conservative, I would suggest if you're using 60, you will leave it at 34. That way you can actually see kind of like break a retest and maybe get out. Or if you're using the ultra conservative, then you would actually use it at 60. Okay, and then for the dashboard, which you will have to change so that you also get signals, right? Because it's gonna have to be based on each, all the time frames. Here is gonna be, if you change, you're gonna go right click, indicators list, and then on the dashboard you can also change the period. The only thing with here is that, like I said, I'm gonna be using 60. You would have to increase the history bars just like maybe by 500. And if you use the ultra conservative, which is 164, this is going to be an issue. You will have to increase this by a lot, maybe 1,000 or 1,500 history bars, which is going to really decrease your computer CPU. It's going to give you some trouble. It's going to decrease the dashboard. Pretty much what it's going to do is, why is it going to do that? Because it has to analyze a lot of history in order to give you the breakers, right? The breaker zones and everything. So it's going to slow down your dashboard. So I really highly recommend, for the dashboard, then using 60. I mean, try it on your side and see how it goes. For right now, I'm going to just go cancel. Because if you change the settings, then again, of course, the alert system has to change, right? All of the breakers are going to be based now on either conservative, aggressive, or ultra conservative. And one of the other things that I really want to go over now that I'm here is that on the dashboard, we have here to either give you some extra alerts that you can filter out, right? You can either filter to give you M15 alerts breakers only if it's going with the daily candle. That really, that's like conservative as well. Sometimes it doesn't, the daily candle might be bullish later on, although you might have gotten a bullish breaker, but the daily candle might happen later, right? So this one is the one that I actually like a lot. Would be following any alert breakers following the 4-hour reversal breaker. So if you say that to true, then what it's going to do is only going to give you M15 alerts, right? So if I set it to true, it's only going to give me M15 alerts based on the 4-hour reversal breaker, right? So that way it's going to filter a lot more trades for you. It's not going to give you all these silly entries, right? So if I'm looking at M15 right over here, there was a nice entry, which is actually this entry right over here. If I go to my 4-hour, well, that's one of these things now. Now with the conservative, we really wouldn't have had, actually it would be going with the reversal breaker. So yes, we would have gotten the reversal breaker right over here, and this would have been the entry on M15. Okay, so this would have been the entry right over here on M15. So it would have had alert you on this entry. Okay, it would not alert you on a bullish, like let's say right now, it would not alert you on a bullish entry. Why? Because we don't have an H4 buying reversal breaker. We only have right now reversal selling, reversal breaker, right, for selling. So we will only get selling opportunities on M15. So yeah, the breaker is going to happen, but it's not going to alert you. So if you have 20 pairs, let's say you put in 20 pairs and you say, listen, alert me only when you have a 4-hour a 4-hour breaker, right, or reversal breaker, and then M15, then right after an M15 breaker happens, then that is going to alert you like that. So, this is going to be great for those of you who actually work, or don't have so much time to pretty much analyze so many charts, so many alerts. You might get overwhelmed with so many alerts, buying, selling over here, and you're like, oh my god, what is going on? So right over here on M15 you're going to get alerts if you say that to true, only if it's going along with the 4-hour reversal breaker. Of course, you still have to analyze it, but at least you will be able to see, hey, I'm in a zone. Why not? I can buy and I can sell. Like let's say over here, we are in a selling zone. We have a 4-hour reversal breaker. So if you get a bearish breaker on M15, an alert going based in here, then you would just pretty much say, let me quickly see, and then that actually looks good. Let me enter, right? So that's pretty much it, traders. I know there's a lot, but this is very, very important because the aggressive mode is really could be affecting a lot of your entries. And the conservative, I think, is the one that is going to be nice. And the ultra conservatives is for those of you who actually like to trade really, really smaller time frames. Okay, so that way you don't get that many alerts. So let me see. I think this is the ultra conservative, 164. So here it is. Like this is 5 minute. You got an selling alert over here, and then this was a nice run. Right, then you have a buy alert right over here, and then you had a nice run to the upside. So pretty much, right over here also on 5, you had an alert here, you had a reversal, a breaker retest, right? We were in the zone, and that was it. That was a nice drop. So pretty much for those of you who like to scalp, the ultra conservative will be good for you. But you're just gonna obviously get less alerts, and you have to be more waiting for alerts. Like look at this, this is a buying bullish breaker, and then the market just kept on going higher and higher. It never gave you really another bullish breaker anymore. So one of those things is that you just have to be just very careful, right? Like if you want to use a reversal order block, like you can change it to 60, so that way you can actually get some reversal breakers on those. That way you can re-enter in the market, but we haven't really had any. Actually, we did have some. Let me just change the timing over here. It's just too many. Yeah, it needs to analyze a lot more. But so that's it, traders. So if you have any questions by any chance, please just drop me a message on Telegram, and then we can actually go over the settings in Telegram ourselves and stuff like that. So I will see you, and if you have any questions, please let me know.